King Jehoahaz and Jehoiakim were the 16th and 17th of 19 kings to rule the southern kingdom of Judah. Their reigns are covered in 2 Kings, 2 Chronicles, and the book of Jeremiah. The events that are connected to their reigns are significant in validating biblical history, along with the fact that Jehoiakim is an ancestor to Jesus, although not named in the Gospel of Matthew between Josiah and Jehoiachin. As such, showing evidence for their existence and the events of their lives will provide assurance that the biblical accounts are historically reliable. Their story starts with their father Josiah being killed by Pharaoh Necho of Egypt in 609 BC at the Battle of Megiddo. Jehoahaz was appointed king by the common people of Israel and ruled only 3 months, as Necho removed him and appointed his brother Eliakim as king. Necho renamed him Jehoiakim as an example to the people of Judah that they were now considered a vassal state of Egypt. In 605 BC, the Babylonian army under Nebuchadnezzar conducted its first siege of Jerusalem and took captives like Daniel back to Babylon. In 598, Nebuchadnezzar captured Jehoiakim, with his son Jehoiachin ascending to the throne. During Jehoiachin's short reign, the second siege took place with Nebuchadnezzar appointing Zedekiah king and taking Jehoiachin as a prisoner back to Babylon. The third siege eventually took place with Jerusalem and Solomon's temple being burnt. As stated before, it is through Jehoiakim's line that we eventually arrive to Jesus by his father Joseph. Their reigns come at the close of the Assyrian Empire after the Battle of Haran in 609. As such, their reigns both start during a power struggle between the Assyrians, the Egyptians, and the Babylonians over the Near East. As seen in our videos for King Jehoiachin and Zedekiah, that the second siege, the burning of Jerusalem and the temple, and evil Marduk's pardon are historically reliable. Even with that in place, the critic will still say, "Where's the evidence?" So here are 5 reasons why the accounts for King Jehoahaz and Jehoiakim found in the Bible are historically reliable. Number 1. Nebuchadnezzar's accession. When comparing the Bible with the Jerusalem Chronicle that's currently in the British Museum, that the date for the second siege of Jerusalem does match by the Babylonians were using the accession counting while Judah was using the non-accession counting method. So when we work backwards from 598, we see that Nebuchadnezzar's first year as king was in 605 BC. In Jeremiah 25:1 says that Jehoiakim's 4th year was Nebuchadnezzar's first year in 605 BC. So starting from the second siege, we can see how the Bible matches Nebuchadnezzar's first year at 605 and then going back 4 years to Jehoiakim's reign starting in 609. Number 2. Pharaoh Necho of Egypt. In 612 BC, the fall of the Assyrian capital of Nineveh took place as the Babylonians and the Medes aligned themselves together. Following the crushing defeat, the Assyrians made Haran as the capital, and the Egyptians under Pharaoh Necho were marching north to help the Assyrians against the next attack by Nebuchadnezzar. At that point, King Josiah tried to cut off the Egyptian army after not listening to Necho's warning that he shouldn't interfere. Josiah was eventually killed in the valley of Megiddo. So in 609 BC, we see that Necho killed Josiah, next he imprisoned Jehoahaz, then he finally installed Jehoiakim as a vassal ruler with demanding for 7,500 pounds of silver and 75 pounds of gold annually. We can see that Necho's rule aligns itself perfectly with the 609 transition of these 3 kings. Number 3. The Battle of Carchemish. In 605, the Assyrians with the Egyptians tried to fend off Nebuchadnezzar at Carchemish along the Euphrates River. This battle is recorded on the Jerusalem Chronicle and is mentioned in the book of Jeremiah. The Chronicle says that against Egypt, but the Bible adds the extra detail that the Pharaoh was Necho. This supports the first-hand account of Jeremiah and that he wasn't copying from another source. The Chronicle goes on to say that they fought with each other and the Egyptian army withdrew before him. He accomplished their defeat and beat them to non-existence. This matches how the Bible says that the Babylonians smote them. The Chronicle continues that the rest of the Egyptian army which had escaped from the defeat so quickly that no weapon had reached them in the district of Hamath. The Babylonian troops overtook and defeated them so that a single man escaped to his own country. At that time, Nebuchadnezzar conquered the whole area of Hamath. 4 years earlier, Necho captured Jehoahaz at Riblah in the land of Hamath. We can see that the Battle of Carchemish between Necho and Nebuchadnezzar matches perfectly with the biblical account. Number 4. The First Siege of Jerusalem. After defeating the Assyrians and the Egyptians at Carchemish, Nebuchadnezzar turned his attention towards the south. The Chronicle says he marched unopposed. This march is recorded as the first siege at the beginning of the book of Daniel. Some critics will try to say that Daniel 1:1 is a contradiction of Jeremiah 46:2 because it says Jehoiakim's 3rd year and not his 4th year. The simple and good reason for this difference is because Daniel was taken captive as a youth and was raised in the Babylonian courts, so his use of the accession counting method is a reflection of his Babylonian training. The Chronicle says Nebuchadnezzar took heavy tribute that matches with Daniel saying that he took many vessels from the temple. At the end of Daniel 1:2, he mentions that Nebuchadnezzar placed the vessels in the house of his God. The Chronicle notes that Nebuchadnezzar brought the tribute back and worshipped his gods, likely by giving them the vessels from the temple. This detail gives good indication that Daniel witnessed this firsthand. We can see from the Chronicle that the first siege took place soon after the Battle of Carchemish. Number 5. A vassal to Babylon. 2 Kings reports that after the first siege, Jehoiakim was a vassal for 3 years, then rebelled. On the Chronicle, we can see this time frame matching out. His first year says that all the kings came before him and received their heavy tribute. The second year says that Nebuchadnezzar marched unopposed. The third year says that he took many spoils back to Babylon. Now the fourth year is when Jehoiakim is said to rebel. The Chronicle reads that Nebuchadnezzar mustered his army and marched to the Hatti land. In the Hatti land they marched unopposed. In the month of Kislevu he took the lead of his army and marched to Egypt. The king of Egypt heard it and mustered his army. In open battle they smote the breast of each other and inflicted great havoc on each other. Nebuchadnezzar turned back with his troops and returned to Babylon. It is this description that gives the indication that Jehoiakim switched his allegiance back to Necho. As the Chronicle says that Nebuchadnezzar stayed in his own land in the 5th year and gathered together his chariots and his horses in great numbers, with 2 years later both the Chronicle and the Bible saying that the second siege took place as Jehoiachin became king after Jehoiakim had likely died at the hand of Nebuchadnezzar. We can see on the timeline that Jehoiakim's 3 years of being a vassal ruler to his rebellion and his death prior to the second siege falls perfectly in line with the events described on the Chronicle. Overall, we can see that from the reign of Pharaoh Necho and the events described in the Jerusalem Chronicle that the accounts for King Jehoahaz and Jehoiakim found in 2 Kings, 1st and 2nd Chronicles, the book of Jeremiah, and the book of Daniel can be seen as historically accurate and not myth. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button below to stay up to date with the new videos as they come out.